We are live and direct. Three of the five swords that I ordered have arrived. Only one remains. That one will arrive after the new year. This here is the legendary sword of Kratos, a Greek warrior dubbed the Ghost of Sparta. With this sword, he drew blood of the gods. It's a legendary sword, powerful sword. It's the sword of my father. This is the sword of my grandfather, the legendary blade of Rome, late great Marcus Aurelius, who smote the dragon and fucked it hard. It's a legendary sword, a powerful sword, double-edged blade of Rome. That's right. Y'all thought I was playing when I said I was gonna get everybody in my family a sword, didn't y'all? Y'all thought I was bullshitting. I wasn't bullshitting. Daughter got a sword. Son has swords. I have swords. My wife has a sword. She don't want to use the goddamn shit, but I bought her one anyway. Got her using them Nerf guns though. I ordered like 400 rounds. They came in today, not counting the other 200 rounds I already got, plus the rounds that came with the Nerf guns. It's wild out here. There is a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to be joined by War a Week Radio. I'm going to shoot him the link after I'm done monologuing and talking a lot of shit. Y'all know me, talk a lot of fucking shit. It appears that Eddie Hearn is building an army of Australians that will be swearing up a storm on the zone. Ebony Bridges among them. Dempsey McKean also, and Sky Nicholson. He's got a guy. What's this guy's name? It's Brock Jarvis. It's what's this guy? Who's this guy? Where's this guy? There's this guy. Liam Paro, another Australian talented boxer. I told you guys, that the Australian market is a developing market that exhibits a lot of potential. They really support their boys and girls out there. It's the ideal place to groom and harvest talent to break into that market for Matchroom, for DAZN, whose expanse is a global expanse. Shout out to Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch says, you get in your mom model from Devil May Cry 3? One moment. Let me show you something. Let me show you something, Willie. Be right back. Show you some shit. Show you. This is the blade of Dante. Powerful demon who fought for good. This is Dante's blade. The katana of hell. You see it? The wisdom, the prestige, the glory. This is the katana of my father and his father before him. With this blade, we smote many demons. Fucked. I'm taking the shit too far, but I tend to do that. Shout out to George. I appreciate that, George. Super Stick, I appreciate that, George. Shout out to my man Drew in the building. Let's talk about Aram and women and Warren being cheap and not holding up fiduciary duties. Floyd and Logan Paul getting stiffed, Shields hating on Serrano, and Paul buying IG followers and getting shit down. Drew, you think I'm not prepared, brother? You think I'm not ready? I am ready, bro. I seen that shit. I was like, oh, we gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about that. Because it lends credence to the notion that myself, that Drew, that many of the other panelists here on the channel have expressed that things are not exactly as they seem with Mayweather's finances and his relationship with Al Heyman, that things are not as they appear. It's not how people say it is. And there are a lot of red flags there because this is not in keeping with what you see from a multi-million-dollar company that's doing good or a multi-millionaire. It's just not in keeping with what you see. But the first thing that I want to talk about, in my little monologue before I open the chat up to the panel is, you got the Ugas situation, and a lot of people, they really feel like, oh, well, if Ugas beats Spence, he'll go right into a Crawford fight. or if Spence beats Ugas, he'll go right into a Crawford fight. And I'm like, I don't understand why they think that when the winner of Butaev versus Stanionis is the mandatory to that fighter. They're fighting on the undercard of that fight. Do you think the placement of that fight is that way for no reason? No, they're the co-main to the main because in all likelihood, the winner might fight them. If the winner doesn't fight them for some reason or whatever, not that I think that they won't, because in all likelihood they will, but if they don't, Keith Thurman is on the rebound. And if he beats Barrios, what makes you think Ugas won't fight him? You know what I mean? What makes, like, I don't understand who these people expect to believe this stuff that the winner of Spence versus Ugas is going to immediately go into a Crawford fight. We've been waiting for this fight for 3-4 years already, and you think they won't make us wait longer? Shout out to Willie Lynch. Julius is the Sherlock Holmes of boxing, always finding things out. Bro, that's badass. So thank you. Appreciate it. Me and my children engage in war. I teach my children the art of war because life is war. Thus, war is life. Much like to the how is life to the warrior? War is life. They learn the fine art of swordsmanship in this tumultuous world that we live in. This is the blade of Kratos, the legendary ghost of Sparta. This is a one-handed sword, single edge, not double. With this hand you hold the sword, here you hold the shield, here you hold the greaves. Yeah, man. I'm having a lot of fucking fun with that shit, I'm telling you. Shout out to Lisa Bell, shout out to Virtuoso, Casual Boxing, God Jet Cat Kyle, AJJJJ, Sliding Counter, James Thornton, Low Key New York is in the building, Storm is in the building, Jump Tube is in the building, Danny Omega is in the building, Jay St. Peter's in the building. You know what I'm saying? Lance Meyer, he's in the building. And yo, it's a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? But that's one of the things that really, it's either they know and they're playing dumb, or they don't know, they don't realize it because they're very short-sighted, that the winner of Spence versus Ugas may have to deal with the winner of Butaev versus Stanionis. How do they not see that? That's the co-main event to the main event. And even if they, by some chance, can finagle a situation where the winner of that fight steps aside, who's to say, let's say Ugas beats Spence, right? Let's just say things don't work out, he pulls the upset. What makes y'all think he gonna go right into a Crawford fight? Who says he don't fight Keith Thurman on pay-per-view? Why y'all think they bringing him back out? Y'all think that these things is all happening in this sequence for no reason? I told y'all before, timing is everything. Timing is everything. Shout out to George. Fantasy fight, Kostya Tszyu versus Sean Porter, 147. I don't think 147 pounds was Kostya's best weight. I don't think. Fast Eddie Hearn got Arrowman Warren on the run globally. Love it. Like Godfather 3, Don Corleone said, the new overthrows the old. It's natural. It's life. It's a circle of life. Shout out to Toby. Shout out to Marion. Shout out to Leo all the way in Chile on the West Coast. Hey! You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, it's a lot of things. So one of the first things I want to just talk about before I open up the chat to the panel is the situation with Floyd and Logan Paul. This is not in keeping with what you should be seeing from someone who's on the up and up successfully. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has now taken to lending his image, his likeness, and his face to companies over there in Dubai. If you follow him on social media, he's doing a lot of advertisements for local businesses, stores, jewelry, high-end stuff, yes, but better still, he's doing this frequently. It's happening more and more. And I feel like with that accent is someone doing something from a need rather than a want. Because if you have money and you're doing good and you make all these smart fucking investments, bro, we shouldn't even be fucking seeing you. We shouldn't see you. If you got all these smart investments and all this shit that's making money for you, why we still seeing you? If it's me, I'm on I say it all the time, yo, dog, if I had that kind of paper, I'm on an island getting my dick sucked every hour, period. Every hour. I ain't gonna be out here fucking advertising jewelry stores, getting into exhibition matches with Logan Paul. Nah, he exaggerated about the kind of money and the value of the fight, saying that it was this and it was that. Bro, stop lying. Stop lying. All right, there was a lack of interest in that fight when when it was supposed to be on Fanmio. The reason they moved it off of Fanmio and moved it over to Showtime was reportedly due to a lack of interest. That's what the reports read. And you want me to believe that all of a sudden people were more interested because it ended up on Showtime? Honestly, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't believe it did 1 million buys. The exhibition match where nobody's going to get knocked out between a guy who a lot of boxing fans hate and a YouTuber, that did 1 million. Are you sure? I don't know that I believe that. What if Keith Thurman loses to Barrios, though? That would be a disaster for them, but it would be very good for Mario Barrios. And if you want me to be honest, it might actually be more beneficial to the PBC if Mario Barrios pulls the upset for 2 reasons primarily. Upsets get a lot of people's attention and they create waves in the world of boxing that reverberate. That's one. And two, Mario Barrios is a younger fighter than Keith Thurman. He's not as war-torn. You know, Keith Thurman, I know he only has 1 loss, and it's not the number of losses, it's everything else. That, like, yo, dog, this is a dude that hasn't fought in 2 years. He loses that fight. What does that communicate? That he's fucking finished. Whereas Mario Barrios, yeah, he has 1 loss, granted, but he's young. He has more upside, and maybe he'll get the inside track with the Chicano fans, who we all know are the lifeblood of boxing in America. Nobody buys pay-per-views more than they do. So for the PBC, it might actually be beneficial if Keith loses. People are going to be talking all about it on Sunday morning and laughing their fucking asses off. Shelton was good, bro. You know what I'm saying? Now we're going to open up the chat to the panel and we're going to get down to the meat and potatoes of the matter. We're going to start off with the Floyd Mayweather stuff, which is some very interesting stuff. In the mean between time, while you guys join the panel, I'm going to shoot War a Week Radio the link to the chitty chat. I'm going to say that there were a lot of you that took issue with some of War a Week's stances on the Fury versus White situation, which we are going to be talking about. All I ask is that if you insist on debating parliamentary procedure, do it in a gracious manner, because we're not children here, we're all adults. So if there is a point of contention, contend it, but do it gracefully, because we're all adults here. Drew was good. Leo was good. Joseph was good.
What's happening, y'all?
Country was good. Jay was good. Shelton was good.
What's good? Julius, what's good, fellas?
Okay, so we're gonna start it off. We're gonna start it off with the this thing with Floyd. You know, I'm sure you guys, if you haven't heard, apparently Floyd is in the hole. Don't know for how much money. Apparently he owes Logan Paul, I should say. He didn't get all his money. I'm going to start off from the top to the bottom. Drew, what does this mean? What's happening here?
It means that Al Heyman is purposely tanking PBC. All that money went to fucking Canelo first. He G-checked Floyd, like, family, what the fuck? No, we're putting it on here because Al Heyman needs PBC to fail so they don't got to pay that investor money back. Okay. And it's evident with all the matches they're putting on, and it's fortuitous to see it come full circle, Jules, in the panel, to see Floyd so insecure about his legacy and what people think of him. That's why he just had that post of the new watch for $15 million. But like, bro, like, you're out there in Dubai and they're making you like a puppet out there, them Saudi billionaires.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Leo. Leo, as concisely as you can. You see this headline. What does this mean to you?
For me, this is just Floyd Mayweather taking a piece on Logan Paul. That's all.
That's all it is. Nothing else.
Yeah, nothing else.
Okay, I'm gonna go to you, Joseph. Joseph, how you doing? Glad to have you back. Joseph, you look at this headline as concisely as you can. What do you think this heralds, if anything?
Well, I will say this, and once again, Julius, thank you so much for being the gracious host, brother. And I owe you a formal apology, and not only to you, but to your listeners as well. I genuinely didn't mean anything by calling them the other name. That was an honest, genuine mistake and a very embarrassing one. And with all humility,
Joseph, don't worry about it. It literally, it's been happening for 39 years now. It's not going to stop.
Thank you for being so kind, but I will not make that blunder from this point forward. So, Julius, this doesn't surprise me one bit. I covered for FightSaga.com Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana back in 2014. And from what I've been told by both Robert Garcia as well as Marcos Maidana, Mayweather still hasn't paid El Chino for switching the gloves. He hasn't paid him the negotiated price of $1.5 million for switching gloves from the Everlast Mex. Is that what it's called? The Mex Everlast to the Power Locks, the same model that Lucas Matisse wore when he beat John Molina Jr.'s ass just 1 week prior, right? So it doesn't surprise me. This is how Mayweather rolls. He won't pay you until he absolutely has to. This doesn't surprise me one bit.
So I guess the real question here is there's a lot of people out there, they feel that Mayweather might be going through financial hardships behind the scenes, or that things aren't as they seem. Do you look at this and do you get the sense that this is perhaps a red flag? That why has Logan Paul not get paid, or does this not mean anything at all?
I don't think it means anything at all, except for Floyd. This is how he conducts business. Until you hold the screws to him or take him to court, just like many people in this industry, he's not going to do it. He's not going to budge. This is how, and all the while, with the money that he actually made off of that event, he's earning interest on it. This is just how he conducts business. That this is just from what I've ascertained from covering the sport for as long as I have to covering Floyd specifically. Like I said, he still owes El Chino $1.5 million, and El Chino hasn't collected because he hasn't sued him yet. Because once again, Floyd has venue rights. Okay, El Chino doesn't live in the States. So in contract, you've got to go to Vegas or Nevada to sue Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Okay.
He's got venue rights in all of his contracts, right? That's the way the business is conducted. And so it's very inconvenient for anyone to have to fly to Nevada. And all the while, Floyd knows, hey man, I'll just get this court case reset and make him have to fly back, whenever it's convenient for me. And he knows it's a way of getting out of paying anybody. This is the way he does business.
Okay, now first, before I pass it to you, Country, let me read these two super chats. Different subject. I just saw Cruz versus Davis, and Cruz won. Keep the same energy. Okay, so we got a guy, he thinks that Isaac Cruz did enough to win the fight. You're not alone. I saw a lot of people that feel that way. I don't feel that way myself, though I see the argument. Get Money says the only reason he likes me is because he's a Capricorn and so am I. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Great minds think alike. Now, Country, you see this headline. What does this mean to you? What do you think it heralds, if anything?
Wow. Floyd's up to shenanigans. I think he's been, I think he's a student of Al Heyman.
Yeah.
And he's going to try to make as much money as he can, pay as least as he can. And, I don't know. He's supposedly in the hole for money, but yet he's not paying people. So what happened to the money?
Yeah, I'm gonna, before I pass it to Jay, I'm gonna say this, right? To me, timing is everything. Timing is everything. And at this time, we're hearing several reports about several fighters on that side of the street that seem to be in the hole with people. We heard about Jermall Charlo trying to dine and dash. We heard about Gervonta Davis owning a car dealership, something like $40,000. Broner's always crying broke, always saying Heyman needs to give him his money. He's going as far as saying he wants to go to the zone and see about doing something with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. And the timing of all of these things to me indicate that things are not as they seem with the PBC, and the money or whatever money they had, they don't have it. Jay, what do you think about that headline?
It was good, Jules. It was good. Could you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. There's a lot to read off the situation. I was actually surprised. I mean, first I spent the first 10 minutes laughing when I read the article, but you know, after I finished up, I said, "Wow, damn, he didn't pay him. He didn't run him his cash." Okay, well, I drew two things from that. Either Jules, you just said it, timing is everything, and things are collapsing at the PBC, and you know Floyd is really broke, and now Heyman has got his money tied up in a Cayman somewhere, or you know, or you know, pretty much. I mean, I'm assuming Logan's not an idiot. If he chose to sign a contract, he needs to take his ass to court if he wants his M's. You know what I mean? So
and he just might.
He'll have to.
He'll have to. You know, and if I see that he does, I'll know that okay, something's wrong. Shelton, you see the headline. What do you make of that situation? What do you think it means, if it means anything?
Well, Country said Floyd is a student of Al Heyman, who is a student of Don King. Mm-hmm. So it's the same deal. You know, Floyd's not going to pay this guy until if he has to, he's going to come out saying, I was going to pay him anyway. I just, you know, he pissed me off. Probably what it looks like doesn't have any respect for Logan Paul.
The apples don't fall far from the tree.
They really don't.
They don't.
Respect for someone, you know, you pay him. If you don't respect, you don't think you need to pay him. So he's going to drag this shit out as long as he can. And when he has to pay him, he will. Okay,
Virtuoso, you see this headline. What do you think it means?
Knowing the history of Floyd Mayweather's business dealings, this just really confirms that it's like he's just a bad businessman, not paying your fighters on time. Like it was a red flag when like Gervonta Davis couldn't pay off his jewelers, you know, and this also could further implicate that Canelo rinsed him.
Oh, I mean, you know what I think, Virtuoso. Before I pass it to JBN, let me read the super chat. Danny Garcia versus 154 pounds. How does he fare? Dominate, survive, or gets destroyed? We will give you the answer to that question after JBN. JBN, you see this headline. What does it mean to you, if anything? Do you think that there's something going on over there on PBC Island?
First of all, what's up, guys? And first of all, IQ, man, I want to give you a shout out, man. Thank you for having me on your channel, bro. And bro, you have the best channel on YouTube boxing, man. I just wanted to say that. Best commentary, best graphics, best everything, man. You have the best channel.
Appreciate you.
And I don't think too much of this situation with him not paying Logan Paul. Again, like the panel saying, he does pretty shitty business moves. But I do think that there is something going on with him, you know, talking shit about Canelo, the $40 million, fighters not getting paid, people getting their debit cards rejected. So I think there is something going on. This could be just him doing shady business because, yeah, he does shady business. But I do think there is something going on with everything that's been out there in the public like that.
Okay, now we're going to go to this question. We're going to start from the top to the bottom. Danny Garcia at junior middleweight. Many of you already know how I feel about it. I'm just going to go straight to Drew. Drew, does Danny at 154 pounds, what is that?
I'll answer for the sake of answering, but I could give a shit about Danny's career because he's irrelevant, never won a fight at 147. Nobody watches, Jules, and he gets destroyed.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like I feel like there's been a lot of gaslighting when it comes to Danny ever since he left 140 pounds. It's like they wanted him to be a star, but he never really was.
He's living off a win from when? When was that win against Matisse?
Bro, that shit was 7-8 years ago, bro.
Against Matisse? Yeah.
That was like 7 or 8 years ago.
That's his last most significant win is against Lucas Matisse on the undercard of Floyd versus Canelo.
So, I'm like, yo, people always try to dismiss Crawford's undisputed campaign at 140 pounds, saying that, oh, well, that was there and this is now. But you still have guys bringing up Danny Garcia versus Amir Khan. Danny Garcia versus, like, bro, that shit was older than that.
When Danny left 140, when Crawford came up there, and Mikey waited till Crawford left 140 to go up there.
Yep, and now Mikey's talking about going back to 140.
Julius, let me throw this at you, sir. Tom Brown, if he had his druthers and Heyman listened to him, right? He wants, now this is what he stated, he would love to feature one last fight with Danny Swift at 147 against Jaron Boots Ennis at the Wells Fargo Center in Philly.
Oh my God!
What do you think of that fight?
Oh my God!
I think, all right, nobody say nothing. Nobody say nothing. I gotta say this. Nobody say nothing. Danny's gonna get stopped. He gets stopped.
Who kill his ass?
But that is a huge money fight
before the fight.
But that is a huge money fight for everyone at PBC, including Danny Swift, including Jaron Boots Ennis. That is a huge fight in a community that has great fight fans, and they're starving for a big event at Philly. When have you ever seen Philly host an event for Danny Swift Garcia that's meaningful?
2 Philly fighters, 2 Philly natives. No, you don't need a title for that one because it's the pleasure. And I got to say this, Joseph. I've never liked Danny Garcia. I can't stand the guy. Honestly, I can't stand him. Like,
you're not getting a Manolo Swift suit, Jules?
Oh my God! Have you seen what he's been wearing? Though he's got a 2-tone suit like he's Harvey Dent in Batman. Like, why is one?
Not only that, it resembles the color of the road. And I said he was fucking roadkill. He's pretty much.
Tell you what, though, I would love to see that fight materialize. That's a great fight.
Well, listen,
and that is a
destroyed.
One at a time.
Danny would want more money for that fight than he wanted for Pacquiao, though.
I think so.
What would be great
the fight
about
itself?
it,
It's a
him
great
getting
fight.
destroyed?
Yeah.
Hold on, one at a time. Go ahead, JBN.
Also, yeah, I mean, the fight itself is a great fight. Like, if that fight was to happen, yeah, that would be an amazing fight. If Danny was to follow the rules of you have to pass the torch to the younger fighter, if you can beat the younger fighter, then you're back on the winning bracket again, talking about the going for the championship. But he doesn't want to do that. So yeah, that would be a great fight. But will he take it? That's the question right there. Probably not. I don't think he will.
All right, let's go to country. Is it a great fight or is it a great beating? Because I hear it. I hear you, Joseph.
It's a great. Number one, it's a great beating. Number two, we're going to have to be subjected to Angel Garcia again all over. I don't want to. Okay? The only one that's worse than him or as close to him is Teofimo Sr. I don't like one of them fools.
He's worse. Joseph, I'm going to say this.
But that's the problem, though, man. I mean, Danny Garcia is going to get destroyed. What's so great about that? I mean, okay, we don't like him, yeah, but it's not going to be I don't see it as a competitive fight. I see him as in knocking Danny out. And
let's say this, Dan. Let's say this, country. Chocolatito versus Estrada, great fight. You know,
right?
That's great fight. Usyk versus Joshua, yeah, great fight. Lomachenko versus let's say George Kambosos. Okay, that's a good fight. But I see Danny and I see Ennis, and I'm intrigued as a boxing fan. Like, ooh, but it's because of the ass whooping that I know Jaron is gonna put on. I've been praying for somebody to beat the fucking shit out of Danny for a long time. Now it's here.
Danny belongs at 140, man. He should have stayed there.
I agree with that. And if anything, look, I'll say this. I feel like Danny is only talking about going to 54, not because his body has outgrown the welterweight division, because he's not a big guy. He's only 5'8". Like, he's got short arms. Like, he's not a big guy. If he's going to 54, it's because he's lazy and he doesn't want to have to keep cutting down to 147. That's what I see. So, to your point, Joseph, I think it's a great announcement, great fight. Not really, because I don't think Danny's going to put up much of a fight. I think he's going to get the shit beaten out of him, and I am going to enjoy it.
Well, I'll say this in closing, right? To retort that, I don't remember who stated their disdain for Angel Garcia.
Me.
But I will say this. When you look at Danny and his stock, right, it has plummeted since Al Heyman decided to mute Angel Garcia being the primary mouthpiece for his son. When you look at his stock, it's completely devalued. And I will say this. Yes, to me, it's a one-sided matchup at this juncture of both fighters' respective careers, but it's a big-time event.
Yes,
which in my opinion is worth a lot more to PBC right now than anything else when it comes to Danny Swift Garcia, a semi-retired fighter who is on the back nine easily closer to the clubhouse.
Now, Joseph, what I want to ask is, most people don't realize that Jaron Ennis isn't an according to Hoyle PBC fighter. He's a Showtime fighter.
That's right. He's a Showtime fighter, but he's fighting for Cameron Duncan.
Exactly. So can we take this potential announcement or this potential fight as the bridging of a gap between Jaron Boots Ennis and the PBC? The fact that they're willing to feed him the disgusting, the insufferable Danny Garcia.
That's the plan. And once again, you can't just pin this on Heyman in terms of wanting options on his opponent's fight if they want to make that kind of payday and be featured on that kind of marquee matchup. This is something that goes way back to the Frankie Carbo years and a strategy that the mob made up when they controlled all the champions in boxing. And every promoter still uses it. If you wanted to fight one of their champions in the 40s or the 50s, you had to give the mob and Frankie Carbo, Blinky Palermo, you had to give them options on your fighters' future endeavors. You had to make them partners just to get a shot at the title. And so in the situation that you won, well, they owned you for the next 4 or 5 fights. That is a strategy that every promoter has used since. Well, and Al Heyman still does it. So this is their strategy for trying to get Jaron Boots Ennis, a future star of the sport, to fight under the PBC banner.
Let's say this. The beauty of organized crime is at least it's organized. And you got to appreciate that. Shout out to the mob. Shout out to the mob. Shout out to Frankie Carbo. Right? Hey, listen, if their practices and their rituals and their traditions allows me to watch Danny get the fucking shit beaten out of him for that disgusting mixtape. You know, he put out a mixtape. It's awful.
About what?
Awful. Hey, look at the super chat, man. It says state-sanctioned murder.
Let me read the super chat. Shout out to WMMA who says DSG versus Boots would be state-sanctioned murder. Hope it's on Showtime and not pay-per-view. I want to see that for free. Willie Lynch says, any word on the Macaboo fight in Warren, Ohio? I heard that might get canceled due to the Optimus Prime virus. On a side note, have seen Lady Chan's AJ vids. Thoughts on Coach Wilson training AJ? Very briefly, I'll touch on that, right? AJ fought probably the worst fight he could have fought against the smaller man. I don't know whose fucking idea it was, but I don't think it was his. I kind of derived that opinion from the post-fight interviews he did in the weeks afterwards, that wasn't necessarily what he wanted to do. Usyk is a small guy. You got to use what God gave you. Use your size, use your power, go for broke. You might have to risk getting knocked out, but you got to stop this guy because the longer the fight goes on, the more it favors him. It don't favor AJ in the long run. So you go out there, you got to try to stop this guy. And yes, it's risky, but you already lost to him trying to be a chess player. Now you got to be now you got to be strong. Now you got to be a set of muscles. You got to be a big punch, a big right hand, a big uppercut. you get close to him, you clinch him, you move him around, you wrestle with him, you throw him to the ground. Let him know, yo, this is the heavyweight division. Because what you did was you boxed him like you're a fucking welterweight. And I don't know whose fucking idea that was. But yeah, let me box him. Let me jab and look for openings and then do all. No. He's little. Use it against him because he's smaller than you are. You know what I mean?
Hey, Jules, a question. Did you hear? I mean, because Lady Chan told me this too. Like she did a video on it, I think. There was a guy at the AJ Usyk fight, head of security or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he apparently, like, AJ was coming ringside, and he asked this guy what the game plan is. What would he do to beat Usyk? Did you hear about that? Like on the night,
I heard that mentioned.
Yeah. Apparently, he asked some head of security guy who used to be like a former boxer or whatever. Like, oh, what would you do to beat Usyk? And I heard that shit. I'm like, oh my god.
Look, I'm gonna say this: if that story checks out, and AJ is literally consulting security guards armed, okay, I'm just playing. And point being, I was saying it. I was saying it in the build-up. What I thought he was gonna do, he was jabbing at Usyk's head when he should have been jabbing at his chest, without the intention of the jab landing. You're not jabbing him so that you can hurt him with the jab. Just touch him so you know where his head is gonna be, so you can bring over that right. For some reason, he's jabbing at Usyk's head, which is obviously a hard target. You don't have to tell Usyk to stay off the line, you know what I mean? Like, it's obvious. And he's literally sitting there jabbing at his head. I'm like, jab at his chest and just step into the fucking jab. He's small. He's going to have to give up ground. You do that enough times, his back is going to end up on the ropes. Then you can unload because he's little. He can't take it.
Yep, that's right.
And I still think Joey Gamache is the answer. You're going to Ronnie Shields. You're going to Robert Garcia. These are not the guys. It's either Joey Gamache, in my opinion, who's based out of New York. He prepared Lomachenko. He prepared Teofimo for Loma. He prepared Valine for Fury. That's the guy. If it's not that guy, it's Ismael Salas. Go to him, okay? Those two guys are the guys. Not Ronnie Shields, not Robert Garcia, none of those guys that he visited while he was here. Those are the guys he needs to go to.
You know anything about the guy he's trading with now?
Not a goddamn thing, to be honest.
Okay.
I gotta research.
I never heard of this guy. I know who. Yeah.
By the way, real quick, rest in peace, John Madden. Man, he passed away.
Oh yeah, man.
Please, rest in peace. God rest his soul. The very best.
End of an era. End of an era.
I didn't know.
Yo, that made me feel so old. That made me feel so old when I heard he died. Bro, like, it's like all the legends that I grew up with is fucking dying, bro. All the guys I grew up with are dying.
It's bad because they're dropping like flies.
I remember when
Go ahead, Shelton.
I said I remember him vividly when he was coaching so high.
Yep, for the Oakland Raiders. Yep.
Yeah, I remember when he got hired. How about that? I remember when he got hired.
Yep.
Now, gentlemen,
but the very best NFL commentary tandem, maybe of all time, was the late great John Madden and the late great Pat Summerall.
Yeah,
there was no better. They did it better than anyone else.
You knew it was
God
a
rest
big
their
game.
souls.
Madden and Summerall. You knew it was a big game.
Yep, they were the very best. Maybe throughout the history, the storied history of the NFL, they were the benchmark. They were the very best. God rest their souls, both of them. Yeah. Both legends.
Now, gentlemen, we got to get ready to batten down the hatches and prepare for the meat and potatoes of today's discussion. There's going to be a lot of hot takes. There's going to be a lot of wild opinions. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Oh shit!
All right. It's and let me just set the stage for this. You know, I've always, from the moment that the fight became a talking point, White and Fury, I never believed it was going to happen. I never believed it. I'm like, no, I don't see it happening. I have my reasons. The guys that he's looking at, you're looking at Andy Ruiz, which is not realistic, and we'll get into why that is. Robert Helenius, who was beaten by Dillian White, I think, in 2017. And, I see this and I'm like, look, Fury is not a proven draw in the United Kingdom. That is just a fact. He's not a proven draw. All his biggest fights have taken place on foreign soil. The 50,000 that came through with the Klitschko fight, those weren't Brits. Those were Germans in Dusseldorf. That's who that was.
Yep.
I mean, you think about the Wilder fights. Well, all three of them were here in America. Not a single one of those fights was in the United Kingdom. So when we talk about Fury's marquee value, I don't doubt that Fury can sell in the UK. I'm just saying that he's not a proven draw there. But you know who is? Dillian White. He's packed out the O2 Arena. It goes without saying that he sold pay-per-views there. He's packed out arenas there. He is a proven draw. And when I see that offer, it goes back to what we were talking about, Joseph. I don't see an offer that's being made in good faith. You don't put up that offer if your intention is to do the fight. Because he gets, before I pass it to you, he gets that kind of money on his own. So you can't offer this and expect the fight to happen. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir. And I do have to jump off here. It's almost 8 p.m. Central my time. So after this, I do have to jump off. And this is what is the worst part about this negotiation for Hearn and White. This is the worst possible time to be negotiating with Tyson Fury and his team. Because he's coming off the two biggest, not only paydays, but the two biggest live gates that he can produce. And once again, numbers don't lie. Now, once again, not taking into consideration his obviously inflated purse amounts, which have equated to $50 million. That's ridiculous. But what you do look at is both of his most recent live gates, right? $35 million. And then you look at his most recent live pay-per-view numbers in a very kind of stagnant pay-per-view market in America, in which he did 1.4 million pay-per-view purchases in his last two fights. So you can't say that he isn't a draw, or his level of popularity or attraction hasn't increased from that, because he's coming off of a fight of the year pretty much victory. It's such a critically acclaimed performance that to say that his level of attraction hasn't increased, well, that's just assuming way too much. Once again, if Hearn and Dillian White are smart, they will allow him to fight Andy Ruiz or Robert Helenius and see if those numbers have increased. If they haven't, then they can go back to the negotiating war room and say, hey, look, you just floundered in your follow-up effort. But if not, well, then they don't have much of a leg to stand on. Once again, Fury, you have to assume that his level of popularity has increased worldwide over his last two efforts. But you can't assume that he's not a draw any longer, because that may not be true. That may or may not be the case. We just have to wait and see. That's ultimately what Eddie Hearn and Dillian White have to deal with. Like I said, this is the worst possible time to be negotiating with Tyson Fury, and that's a damn shame, because more than likely we will not see that fight possibly until the tail end of 2022, if we get to see it at all.
Well, listen, I'm just going to rebuttal with this, and to me it's simple. We're never going to see this fight. This fight will not happen. The plan seems to be for Tyson to have this fight with either Andy Ruiz or Robert Helenius, then move straight into the Joshua versus Usyk fight, whoever wins that fight, which is what I always suspected, that Dillian White is not a part of Tyson Fury's bottom line. He just isn't. And when I see this offer, it's not about saying that Fury's marquee value hasn't increased. No, I'm sure that it has increased, and I'm sure that he can do okay. You know, I'm not gonna overestimate it or overstate it. I'm sure he can do okay based on what he's done abroad. He can do okay domestically. My thing is, when I see that offer, they're not respecting Dillian White's marquee value. For a perspective, two over the hill, well, not over the hill because they're not that old. They're younger than me. But two guys who are so obviously past their prime, in Amir Khan and Kell Brook. Their fight sold out in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Okay?
Yep.
So when I think about this fight, and I know because I asked the Brits, and most of the time I hear the same thing, this fight does 1 million pay-per-view buys. This fight sells out. The issue that I see with it is you're offering him a comparable guarantee to the guarantees he's already getting without you. So when I see So hold on. When I see that,
Sure.
I don't see the intent of making the fight because Bob may not know the market value of a fight in the UK. Maybe he doesn't, but Frank does. Frank knows this is a hot ticket, and $10 million to Dillian White. No, that's nothing because this fight is good for that kind of cash. They don't want to do the fight, and that's what the offer communicates to me.
Well, I will say this: the last time. Shout out to my brother Antonio Luna from Long Beach, California. God bless you, brother. But I will say this: Don Chargan warned me about this a long time ago. God rest his soul. He's a gentleman who my show is actually named after, Don Warwick Chargan. He's a gentleman who taught me, as well as De La Hoya and Richard Schaefer, the business of boxing. And he told me this a long time ago when PBC was just starting up, and he saw how much Al Heyman was paying his talent to attract talent, and it was just terribly inflated purses. He told me, Joseph, this is not going to end well for the health of boxing. What happens when you start being in the consistent practice of paying your talent inflated purses? Well, it makes it virtually impossible to put the best matchups together. When your fighters grow accustomed to making millions from soft touches, okay, they do not want to accept these risky challenges any longer.
No, they don't.
And that's what we're seeing right now, a very risky endeavor for both men, and both men wanting to be compensated for it way past their respective market value. That's what we're seeing here. And in my opinion, both men want way too much money at this time, more than what it may be worth. And once again, that's debatable. But either way, you're right. This fight is not going to get done because of the demands of both fighters. And it's a product of paying out inflated purses. It makes it virtually impossible to put together the best matchups that the fans deserve, the real bosses of boxing. But Julius, God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for being the gracious host once again. And once again, my apologies. But hey, I will say this. I'll leave you with this. I love all three of those fights. I love all three. Robert Helenius, this is not the same guy who got stopped or lost to Dillian White. He's once again back to form. You're seeing a closer version of Robert Helenius to the guy who knocked out Sam Peter and Layman Brewster before he was riddled with injury. And I love the fight with Andy Ruiz stateside. I think it's a huge fight in Vegas. But yeah, the possibility of that happening, that's the least likely fight that's going to happen.
Well, it's always been the least likely, but I will.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Julius, before you go further. Do you think maybe Arum is dangling these two options to try and bring the expected price or the asking price of Dillian White way down? Because once again, Tyson Fury is not limited to UK. He is proven to be a big draw in Vegas, where he is residing when he's in the US. He's already proven to be a draw in the Vegas market in Nevada. Do you think Arum is dangling these two options just to try and get Eddie Hearn's asking price lower?
I would say no. I would say that from the very beginning, I've always felt that Tyson Fury doesn't want the Dillian White fight for whatever reason. And see, this is the thing. The Helenius fight isn't a hot ticket in the UK. It isn't. I can tell you that right now. And it's not a hot ticket in Vegas because you're not going to do with Helenius what you did with Wilder. That's nowhere near. You're going to do Tom Schwartz numbers with that guy. That's what's going to happen. In this market, it was different with Wilder because you had a homegrown American fighter, a homegrown American champion. You know how xenophobic us Americans are. If there are no Americans involved, but you know this. And you know that if there are no Americans involved, is America going to show up for Tyson Fury versus Robert Helenius?
I will say this. What bodes well for Tyson Fury is the fact that in his last two efforts against Deontay Wilder, both that did $17 and $18 million respectively at the live gate, there were more people in those arenas on both nights rooting for Tyson Fury than they were Deontay Wilder.
I don't doubt that. But this fight with Robert Helenius, see, this is the thing. You do this, and I swear to God, I wouldn't be surprised if it does a little better than Tom Schwartz. though the bar is set very low when it comes to the Valine fight and the Shavats fight, because this is not a big fight. Whereas with Dillian White, those Brits, they back their boys.
That's right.
They both have separate factions of fans that are very passionate about either guy. You have a genuine rivalry there that goes back years. Dillian White says he used to drop this guy in sparring all the time. You have all the makings of a big British boxing match. Hellenius. And
he's not a draw anywhere but in Finland.
and he don't even fight there.
Nope.
And I look at Hellenius. They're talking about Manchester for
Hellenius.
Oh
geez.
Like,
look. I will say this: when you're talking about levels of attraction, what most people seem to be doing, right, that are trying to discredit and assume that Tyson Fury is the same draw he was before his last two efforts against Deontay Wilder. That's like saying that Floyd Mayweather, following immediately the Oscar De La Hoya fight, that's like pointing to his last two pay-per-view numbers before that against Carlos Baldomir and Zab Judah, which were very underwhelming. Guys, we just have to wait and see. We just have to wait and see, and that's the only way to be definitive. And if Eddie Hearn and Dillian White are smart, they will wait and see what his follow-up effort, his sophomore effort after.
Hold on, Joseph, because this is
sir.
the thing. If he ends up vacating the WBC title, that creates a separate scenario that could be detrimental moving forward. Anthony Joshua, should he win the Usyk fight, who says that Eddie Hearn doesn't decide, you know what? Fury's not going anywhere. We're the money fight. Fury's not going anywhere. If that green belt ends up in the hands of Dillian White, which is genuinely possible, he might do a rematch with those two guys before he decides to do the Fury fight, because we know it's the easier fight to make.
Well, I will say this, Julius, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I jump off. I will say this. The late Emmanuel Stewart, he once said that records, resumes, and trinkets are for fans, writers, and network executives that don't quite understand what they're looking at yet. And most of your listeners, quite possibly all of your listeners, are very intelligent, and they know what they see in the ring. And trust me, there will still be a massive demand to see Fury versus Joshua. That's the fight, either that or versus Usyk. That's the fight everyone wants to see. Like, all of these guys understand that listen to your show and watch your podcast religiously. They understand that Tyson Fury is currently the man to beat in the heavyweight division. And that's not going to change with or without the WBC title. But, hey, brother, thank you so much for being as gracious as you've been. God bless you, and have a wonderful evening, guys.
Happy New Year, Joseph, in case I don't hear
Happy New Year to you, my brother. God bless all of you.
Hi, Joseph.
Happy New
Take
Year.
care, AJ.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to all of you.
I'm going to read this super chat from Drew. Why is he a draw when they don't want a Hellenius fight in the UK but Ruiz in Vegas? That negates his status in terms of him being a draw. Furthermore, DAZN can pay more for both fighters than Warren and Arum. And we're going to get to that, Drew. Also, Willie Lynch says, sometimes I wonder how much damage has been done to Fury. The downside of being a giant is their bodies tend to break down quicker, which is true. He's not an evenly distributed giant like LeBron James. You know what I mean? Like, LeBron is even all around. You know, he's like a really big, normal-sized guy in terms of
he's not
proportion.
a supreme athlete.
Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. All right. LeBron is a fellow Capricorn, in case you didn't realize.
So is Denzel. Happy birthday, Denzel.
Happy birthday, Denzel. Happy birthday,
Nice.
Derek Chisora. For those that don't know, today is Derek Chisora's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday, a Capricorn brother.
Derek.
Happy birthday, Derek.
Derek!
Happy birthday, Derek.
Now,
Happy birthday.
before I open this conversation to the panel, what I'm going to say, which characterizes the situation in its entirety to me, is this is not about splits to Team Fury, and this is not about haggling or trying to get more money. They don't want this fight, and they are trying to dissuade Dillian from pursuing it by lowballing him, because what they want is a lighter touch ahead of the next fight, which is Joshua or Usyk. This is not about doing for Fury and his team. This is not about doing what needs to be done to make a fight or what split makes the most sense. They don't want to fight Dillian because win or lose, it's going to be a rough fight. Like, you know, I could tell you that Fury would be favored to win the fight. Of course he would. Most people would favor Fury to win the fight, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be a rough fight. The Chisora fight was a rough fight. The first one, that was a rough fight. The Valine fight was a rough fight, and nobody expected that. So I have no reason to believe that Dillian White is going to be a cakewalk for Tyson Fury. Not when you go in life and death with Otto Valine. Now, let's open the conversation to the panel. Drew, what say you?
It's bigger than that, like we've talked, Jules. The ramifications of this fight and what Arum and Warren are doing versus Hearn and the pieces on the chessboard, it's bigger than this. Their fiduciary duty, last time I checked, is to get their fighter the most money for the least amount of work, right? On their part.
Exactly.
Eddie Hearn and DAZN can guarantee White $8 million and Fury 12 to 15, and Warren and Fury get their nice cut and ain't got to do shit.
Now listen, Drew.
The problem
Drew,
is
the thing is it's not. This is the thing. Look, remember, when Tyson Fury first mounted his return to boxing, the bigger fight was the Joshua fight, not the Wilder fight. But Fury chose the Wilder fight because it was the more winnable fight. He knows that. You know that. I know that. I think everybody on this panel knows that. That he chose that fight because Wilder's fundamentally flawed. He's a one-handed fighter. There's not as much money in it for you, but it'll get you back. And I look at that situation that, oh, well, it wasn't necessarily going after the most money that you were angling for. You wanted the more winnable fight. And I think the same applies here that, well, look, it's not that he can't beat Dillian White. Like, and I don't know why people treat it that way. Like I'm saying, oh, yeah, Dillian's just going to beat him. I don't know that. It's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. Leon Spinks beat Muhammad Ali. So motherfuckers need to act like they know. Right? Shit happens.
Like you pointed out, Jules, who has the infrastructure to broadcast a Fury White fight in more markets than ESPN?
DAZN. But do you
There's more money if DAZN and Hearn do it. You think Fury and Ruiz is going to do money in Vegas? Fuck no.
Listen. This is I'm telling you right now. For me, what I see is this is not about. This is for you, Slide Tendencies. I'm going to drop you the link so everybody. Don't 10 people click the link. This is for Slide Tendencies.
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead, JB.
The Chicanos and the Mexicans don't support Andrew Ruiz for overeating. So no, esa pelea no va a vender.
Tell him.
Pero tú sabes lo que la gente piensa que por mira Zurdo Ramírez. Zurdo, he doesn't have support like that. Ellos piensan que cada boxeador, just because he's a Mexican fighter or of Mexican descent, that he automatically is going to have a whole heap of fans. No.
Míralo, Jules. They couldn't get fucking Mexicans out there for Arreola Ruiz.
Exactly. They was probably telling themselves at Fox, oh, well, this has two fighters of Mexican descent, so it should do good, well on pay-per-view. No, it won't. You're crazy. You put that on paper. Who the fuck do you think is going to buy that? Nobody want to buy that. Lo que le gusta a los mexicanos de sus boxeadores es que no tienen temor y no son pendejos. That's what they like. Que no tienen temor, no son pendejos, and they bring war. Now, when you make a fight like Ruiz versus Arreola, that's not that, bro. That is not that, all right? So I'm like, yo, who the fuck told y'all that was a good idea, all right?
Bro, I wouldn't even pay for that. It was in front of a fucking taco truck.
Bro, I wouldn't pay to see that shit if they was fighting outside my house.
Yeah.
Hold up, Eson, I'm gonna take you out so that Slide Tendencies could come in real quick, all right?
No problem. I'm leaving work, so you're good.
I bet. All right, Slide Tendencies, go ahead. There's room now. And the thing I see about this fight with Fury and Dillian White is Fury is not trying to make this fight, and that's what I think is getting lost in translation. That people are acting like this is not a haggling situation. What they're doing is trying to dissuade Dillian from pursuing the fight. That's what they're doing because it's their intention to have a lighter touch before they fight either Usyk or Joshua. They don't care about the belt. Fury already hinted months ago that he'll drop that belt before he fights Dillian White. He said that shit himself, all right? So this is not negotiations. This is Bob and Frank trying to dissuade Dillian from taking the fight. That's what it is. Fury has no intentions of fighting this dude. He never did.
Hey, Jules, question: If
Go ahead.
if okay, like let's say like Bob and Frank don't want to do the fight, fine, just let Eddie do it. He'll pay for it all. I'm sure he'd be happy to take care of it, wouldn't he?
They
Yeah,
don't.
you know what I mean.
They listen for them, and it's not just them. You honestly think, Jay? I'm gonna ask you. Do you
What's up?
think that Fury wants to fight under the Matchroom banner?
No, absolutely not.
Me neither.
No. But here's the thing: even if he did, he's been banging on about how Dillian's a bumble who'll steamroll him. And okay, go and do it on a Matchroom show if it's so easy. What's the problem? You know what I mean? If he's such a bum and he's shit and he can't fight, what's the problem?
He doesn't believe that. That's the thing.
I know.
He doesn't
I
believe.
know. It's nothing but hot air. It's nothing but hot air from his ass.
Yeah,
always,
his actions
you know what I mean?
show it, man.
Nothing.
Because
It's like,
you
you're
can't
right.
go you can't go life or death. And I'm not saying this to slight Otto Verleen. You understand what I mean? I'm not saying it like that. What I mean is he knows this division. He knows this sport. Any given night, any given fight, anything can happen. And you know Dillian. You know him from years ago. You know this guy. You know him. And you know that he is not coming to box, bro. He's coming to fuck you up. And he's going to make it rough. And maybe you do stop him. But do you want to go into the Joshua fight banged up? Do you want to go into the Usyk fight banged up? Because he's going to bang you up.
No, because once again, Fury never refuted those sparring stories, did he?
Nope.
No. Let me ask you guys this: what does it say that Top Rank and Warren are willing to lose money paying Fury this ridiculous guarantee for Helenius or Ruiz and not make money with this fight?
They're willing to take a loss for a gain. You know how it works, Drew. It's business.
So 3 losses in a row, right, Jules?
Well, the way I look at it is they might have recouped some of the money that they lost from the second Wilder fight with the third Wilder fight because the operational costs for this fight were lower. So they might have got some of their money back, not all of it. And the intention is to get all of it back and more with either Usyk or Joshua. They know that's a money fight. They know that. Now, granted, and you and I both know this, Drew, you don't make with Usyk what you would have made with Joshua. You don't. Like
you don't make with Usyk what you would make with White.
Honest to God, you don't. Now I'm gonna let Sly Tennessee's say his piece. Go ahead, Sly.
What's up, guys? No, I don't understand. I've been listening to you guys for a minute, and you guys actually said some shit that I was like, whoa, okay, I kind of agree with all that stuff. Because the thing I'm seeing from a lot of people is they're acting like Fury's scared and all this other stuff. And what I think it is, because I did a little, if I'm wrong on any of this, Julius, call me out on it. But I looked at Dillian White's past 4 fights, and none of them did over 250,000 buys on pay-per-view. And his biggest purse he got was against Povetkin 2, and it was 3.5 million. Now, I'm not as astute as you are on the business and all that other stuff in boxing, but if he's coming in asking for 10 million flat before pay-per-view, no live gate, and I'm basing this off of Bob Arum's interview, and I listened to Frank Warren too. And then they posted the tweet thing earlier too. If he's coming in asking for 10 million off the gate, does that seem unreasonable? Or, I mean, I know they can sell a lot of pay-per-views, but
I'll break it down for you, Sly. I'll break it down.
Go ahead.
Here's an example. You look at Gennady Golovkin and his 2 pay-per-views, the one with Daniel Jacobs and the one with David Lemieux. Those pay-per-views sold less than Dillian White has sold, right? But everyone knew that the fight with him and Canelo Alvarez is a monster. So comparatively, he did over $1 million both times with Canelo, even though he himself only did 150,000 with Lemieux and 160,000 with Jacobs. With Dillian White, he's done more than 250,000. I'm pretty sure he's done more than that at least 2 times. But he's done 250,000 on his own with a New Zealander, with a nondescript Colombian guy who's a good fighter but has no fans. You know what I mean? The Oscar Rivas fight. He's doing those numbers off of his name alone, right? Now, you look at a paper. Now, let's say we do Amir Khan versus Joe Blow in the UK as a pay-per-view. That's not going to sell shit. But look at what Khan and Brook is doing. When you got 2 Brits, they're coming together. There's a rivalry. There's a grudge match. Bear in mind that these guys are past it. They're way past their prime. but the fight sold out in 20 minutes.
I saw that. I saw the. I actually went to the website just as like a goof, and it said it's completely sold out.
So when you so now factor in if you said if tickets to Dillian White and Tyson Fury in the UK became available, you'd get that reaction and more. So Dillian White's guaranteed purses, what he gets up front, is in that neighborhood. For starters, it's not 3 and 4 million. It's 3 and 4 million pounds, not in US dollars.
Oh, that's
so
a
you
good
have
point.
to apply. So you have to apply the conversion rate. When you apply the conversion rate, it's closer to 5 million. All right, and that's what he's getting without Tyson Fury. That is why when you come into a Tyson Fury fight, well, I'm not gonna get. I'm supposed to get more. This is Tyson Fury. This is a WBC title fight. You trying to pay me like I'm fighting fucking Oscar Rivas. You trying to pay me? You trying to pay me like I'm fighting Alexander Povetkin? You Tyson Fury, I'm Dillian White. And here's the thing. Here's the kicker. They all know. The Americans don't know because Americans are xenophobic. But Frank knows. Frank knows. Frank knows. Eddie Hearn knows. Tyson Fury knows. And Dillian White knows what this fight does in the UK. They know. They know this is a whale of a fight. They know that this is the second biggest fight you can make for Tyson Fury in the UK. The only fight bigger than this one is the Joshua fight in the UK. And they know that. So when you offer, so you knowing that, and you gonna offer this guy $5.5 million, bro, he can make that without you.
I'll tell you though. I'll tell you this though, real quick. I'll just say this, and I'm man enough to admit that I'm wrong, and that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I just think that is it just Bob being greedy? Like, is it really them just not wanting to work with Eddie Hearn? Like, what?
Bingo.
No. It's not that. It's that they don't look. I'm not telling you that Tyson Fury is crying in his bed at night over Dillian White. It's not that. It's that if the aim is to get to either Anthony Joshua or Alexander Usyk, you don't want to be involved in a tough ass fight right before that. Win or lose.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Win or lose. Like I don't want to be in a brawl or anything resembling a brawl, risk injury going into the Usyk fight or the Joshua fight.
Because you might end up leaving it in the ring, man. And then if you leave it in the ring in the next fight, you get smashed. Well, problem.
And look how much damage he took in that Wilder fight. I heard his dad say that. I heard Fury's dad say that his elbows are so arthritic that they have to do the. I can't remember what some kind of cortisone injections and shit now because his elbows are bad. So I see what you're saying there.
So think about the Wilder fight. In the Wilder fight, the one that he just had, he got knocked down 2 times. All right.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that Dillian knocks him out or Dillian don't knock him out. I just know that's a rough fight. If you watch the first Chisora fight, that's what the Dillian White fight is gonna be like. That's what that's gonna be like. Yo, bro, he's gonna crowd you. You don't.
He's gonna make it ugly.
He doesn't have one hitter quitter power. Tyson Fury battered Deontay Wilder and knocked him out, but he didn't just hit him one clean time and that's it. The fight is over.
It took a lot.
It took a lot.
Tyson still took some punishment himself as well. He didn't get it from scratch.
Hey, I got a question, Jules. Do you think Fury Usyk would be as big as Fury AJ or Fury White?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And like this, if AJ gets the belts back, he's the A side. That fight's in the UK. That fight has to be on the zone.
Jules, I appreciate you though setting me straight, man. I just from a purely black and white perspective, it just looked like a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's a pussy" and all this other shit. And I'm not like a fanboy, but I do like Tyson Fury, so I wanted to get like some clarification.
Let's put it. Look, let's put it this way. Hold on, nobody say nothing. Let's put it this way, Sly. Somebody's mic is wilding. Mute your mics. Let's say that the Dillian, that Dillian had the 3 belts, and Dillian was the guy that Tyson Fury has to go through for the remaining 3 belts. Tyson Fury would fight him. Yeah, he'd fight him. He's not gonna just shy away and run away. No, but right now his focus is getting to Usyk or Joshua. That's the focus. That's the fight he's trying to get to. So in light of that, the White fight is not a priority. Now we can say anecdotally that, you know, he has experience with this guy. This guy dropped him in sparring and he's never denied it, that he used to drop him all the time in sparring. That's a factor. I'm not saying that Fury can't beat White. No, he can beat him, or maybe White can beat Fury. What? This is the heavyweight division. This is not welterweight. This is
like
not
you said,
middleweight.
Jules, it's why we fight the fights.
Yes, that's why you have to fight the fights. Leon Spinks beat Muhammad Ali, bro. Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Andy Ruiz beat Anthony Joshua. This is the heavyweight division. This is not welterweight. One punch, that's it, bro. That's it. That's this division. So when you think about that, it's not, oh, he's so afraid. But when we say, does he want the fight? Understand me what I mean when I say no, he doesn't want the fight, bro.
Yeah.
Can I just say this
okay,
real
Julius,
quick?
Let me say this.
All right.
Okay. I think
Napoli. Sorry.
I think all people here wants to see Fury versus AJ, Fury versus Usyk. We are not so interested about Dillian versus White in comparison to those fights. But that might be an illusion. Why Dillian White and AJ have so many losses compared to all those guys?
Because they fight the fights.
They fight the fights. And what bothers me, what makes me upset about this situation, that so many people talks about Tyson Fury's record like it was Dillian White's record.
I agree with that.
He's a proven guy. Proven with what opponents? Wilder, Otto Wallin, Pianeta.
Yeah, like look,
all that. Vladimir Klitschko.
Let me expand on your point. Let me expand on your point, Leo, because I'm in 100% agreement with everything you're saying, right? I'm not saying Fury is a bad boxer. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's an opportunist. Look at what Anthony Joshua, and I'm not telling y'all to love Anthony Joshua, right? I'm not telling y'all that. I'm just telling y'all that the fight on the other side of Usyk was the Fury fight. That's the fight that was on the other side. Now, AJ didn't do with Usyk what Fury's doing with Dillian. No, he's my mandatory. I got to fucking fight him. I'm not giving him my belt. No, I need the belt to be undisputed. That's how he treated the situation. He lost, you know, because Usyk is a great fucking boxer too. But he fucking lost. He didn't treat the situation the way that Fury's treating Dillian White did. Oh, wait a minute. You know, this could be a rough fight. I don't know if I want to do that ahead of an AJ fight or a Usyk fight. No. I need to fight Robert Helenius, Andy Ruiz. I don't want to fight him because that's what I see. All right. This is not about, oh, yeah, you know, if you lower down what you want, we'll get. No. You're doing what you're doing because you don't want Dillian. You want Usyk and AJ, not Dillian. And I understand that logic, but that's not how AJ does things. It's not. Most people looked at Andy Ruiz as, oh, he's just some fat guy. Go back to the videos here on this channel when he was announced. I said, that's a better choice than Jarrell Miller. It's a more dangerous fight. Andy Ruiz has fast hands and quick counters.
It's the hypocrisy is hilarious when Fury talks shit about Wilder's resume and only has one title defense, but then just say I beat the most killer dude at the heavyweight division. It's funny. It's cute. It's cute.
And he's only somebody's mic is fucked. He's only a quote unquote killer to a small faction, a very small faction of American boxing fans, because people I talk to on Twitter, here on YouTube, from all around the world, from the Ukraine to Germany to Chile to here to there to the UK, nobody views Wilder that way. Only a couple of Americans nobody views. No, we don't think.
And nobody buys his fights.
Nobody buys it. Like, y'all wilding. According to who Wilder's this killer? According to who? He fought no one. The other day, I did a video about Derek Chisora and how Derek Chisora debuted the year before Wilder. And Derek Chisora was having the fights that Wilder should have been having. He fought Pulev. He fought Tyson Fury years ago. He fought Robert Helenius. He fought Vitaly Klitschko. Wilder was around the same time in literally the same place in his career that Derek was. The difference is Derek was fighting people and you were fighting fat club fighters and journeymen and little dudes from cruiserweight with multiple losses. Harold Sconeers got you in trouble. It's not a Harold Sconeers wasn't what? But 5 foot? No. He was like 6'2", something like that. At Fantasy Springs, when a guy like Harold Sconeers can get you in that much trouble, bro, they're not gonna fucking let you fight Vitaly Klitschko. He'll eviscerate you.
Remember
Shelly
the
Finkel
great
said as much
I
too.
can never. I
remember
just
the
want
great
to say
Dustin
this.
Nichols?
Hold on,
Great
Virtuoso.
Dustin Nichols?
Go ahead, Virtuoso. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's been a minute since I spoke, but I just want to say this. I can't trust a fighter who has a trainer that took a dive against him early in his career. And the way I look at when you try to look at them at White and Fury and what it took to get there at the point of their careers, Dillian White went through the most shit. He went to the fucking gamut. Whereas Fury is like, to me, he's just trying to protect that O. He's still part of that, that whole that whole like modern day mentality of, oh, if you have an undefeated if you don't have an undefeated record, you ain't shit. Now, going back to about the purses and everything like that, I think Bob is really protecting Fury's like ego by saying that stuff about oh, the fight ain't happening because oh, this guy is being too greedy, when it's just a cover for what you guys explained to me about what would happen if they would fight.
Yeah,
And
like it's not. Yeah, like look, it's not greed when he gets that on his own. He gets 4 and 5 on his own. You want to pay him like this is White versus Povetkin? Are you crazy?
And you don't want to let Eddie do the fight. That could pay him more.
And that's an ego thing. You know that, Drew. That's a
That's
fucking
my thing
ego
is this:
thing.
is the WBC going to allow
infrastructure
a purse bid, or is that, or is that's it?
That's the $10 million question. When the time comes, will the WBC do what needs to be done? Because depending on the answer, they might let Fury keep that belt. I don't put it past them.
I don't think they will. I think they'll let him keep it.
At this
They've
point
done it.
in
They did it
time,
with Wilder.
You might see,
They've always done this stuff. The WBC,
gentlemen,
they pulled so many
you
rabbits
might
out of a hat for fighters to avoid mandatories.
you
They've gotten
you
a
might
really
see,
bad rep.
Yo, fellas, they'll let Canelo get away with murder. That's what they'll do.
bro. If that's
at
the
this
case,
point
then
in time, the
you're gonna see
WBC.
the first ever. You're gonna see the first ever franchise heavyweight champion.
We have to see. We have to see
I hope
what
not.
happens. We have to see what happens with this arbitration. A part of me feels like, yo, you know what? They might let Dillian get the belt. They might, because Tyson Fury is not attached to that belt. It's just like Joseph said, which is true. Fury don't need that belt for the fight to be big. He still has the Ring magazine and Acclaim. Not everybody agrees with it, though, by the way. You can ask around. Not everybody agrees that he's lineal champion, but better still, he still claims that, and he has the Ring magazine belt. Even without the WBC title, he's still a part of the undisputed conversation. You can't just fight Dillian. Let's say AJ wins the belts back. And let's say he fights Dillian White and knocks him out for a second time, right? It can't end there. You have to fight Fury. Then you have to fight Fury. You do, though. Like, and I'm
But
not big on
but
Fury.
you know how you say that Fury is opportunistic. He'll turn around and say, well, that win, that Joshua's win over Klitschko, oh, that wasn't shit because like I was a better boxer. When we know that the fight between Joshua and Klitschko was fight of the year material.
Listen. It ain't even that. Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. All right. Ali languished with Frazier and lost the first fight. Joe Frazier doesn't make it out of the second round with George Foreman. In turn, Muhammad Ali has George Foreman languishing, knocks him out. Boxing math does not work the way Fury is saying it is. Yes, AJ had a tougher fight with Klitschko than you did. Does that mean you do to him what you did to Klitschko? No, it's a different fight. It's a
Styles
different
make
fight.
fights.
At this
That
point,
fight, by the way, that
WBC
fight between Fury and Klitschko was such an eyesore.
At this point,
yeah, that was. I mean, to be fair, it might have. It's boring to people that don't. I mean, if you look at it from a technical standpoint, he made Klitschko look like he didn't know how to box.
No, that was an atrocious fight.
Let
That
me
will
say
not
this.
even be.
Let me say this, Sly. Let me say this. If you understood, which many Americans did not appreciate the reign of Klitschko, right? See, I appreciated his reign. So in watching the fight, I'm like, wow, he's gonna beat him. That's how I'm watching the fight. Like, it's not fun, but yo, Klitschko better do something because he's gonna lose. All right. Now, there were a lot of Americans. There still are a lot of Americans, and I don't know why, because Vlad took on all comers. He took on all
He
comers.
fought everybody.
He fought everyone. Like, you want a shot? Come and get it. The only guy he wouldn't fight was his own fucking brother. Other than that, he fought everybody. Man was not appreciated.
Yeah.
If you
I like his brother better.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I like
the
Vitaly
competition
better
back
too.
then was lax for him. You know.
Hey,
I like
but in retrospect, that was like what he did.
I like Vitaly because Vitaly was
Hey
meaner.
guys, let me say this real quick, man. The WBC, unfortunately, because of the past, but at this point in time, they are not to be trusted. They are persona non grata with their actions.
They never
were, bro.
Yeah, well, I guess
Right.
now it's more in the open. You know, before it was behind the scenes. Now it's blatant.
Let's say this though. The WBC knows the kind of sanctioning fees they can get, and it's 2 paydays in there for them if they're smart. And Mauricio's a Capricorn. I'm not happy about it, but he is a Capricorn, so I know that he's smart. It's the truth, bro. We are. It's
Is he
the way
really?
we're yes, unfortunately. I'm not proud about that either, but
he's a hustler.
I'm not proud of that, but he is a Capricorn. He knows
He's
what
a
he's
low
doing.
down, ruthless vato.
That's a
I like
Capricorn
that.
hustle,
Low
man.
down.
I'm a
I like
hustler,
that.
baby.
Like on training day, and I like that.
He got it from his daddy.
But point being, if you let Dillian get the belt, that's 2 paydays instead of 1, because the winner of Joshua versus Usyk may then fight Dillian, get that belt, and then fight Fury, and that's 2 massive fucking fights instead of just 1. If you just let Fury keep it, well, that's really just 1 big fight, you know. But if you give Dillian the belt, oh, that's 2 huge fights, 2 big fights.
And this is where their logic goes out the door.
Dillian will fight the winner. He will fight the winner.
Let's say White gets the belt. They have those 2 fights, Jules. In the meantime, Fury has fights and they flop. Now that dude can't use that logic of like, oh, he did this his last 2 games. Like, no.
Well, Drew, what do you think? Like, I don't know. Look.
They're not going to get no $10 million for a
It's
Ruiz
not.
gate.
Listen. I've been waiting to say this. Andy Ruiz, if you offered Dillian White $4 or $5 or $5.5 million, you do realize that Dillian White offered Andy Ruiz $4 million. Do you think that Andy Ruiz is going to fight on the cheap? Andy turned the fight down.
I'll add this, Jules. You think Al Heyman's going to let Andy fight Fury for less than Caleb Plant fought Canelo?
Besides, I mean, are they even going to let Andy Ruiz go to Top Rank for the fight?
Bro, like
they'll let him go, but at a price.
No, Drew, no, they will not let. They would not let Caleb Plant go for Canelo. Tyson Fury's not a bigger draw than Canelo. So, bro, forget Andy, bro. If Dillian White, and I'm gonna say this too, Dillian White for Andy is a more winnable fight. $4 million was not enough to get the fight done. Do you think that Bob is going to pay Andy Ruiz $10 million? No. 7? No. 8? No. He's not going to pay him that. Ruiz is not really there.
Jules, like you
now,
said,
now who's there? Robert Helenius. He's cheaper than Dillian. He's cheaper than Andy. Shaky your chin. Good guy. I like him, but you're shaky your chin. He's been stopped by Johan Duhaupas. He got stopped bad. All right,
George Washington. George Washington too.
Hey, was that the same Johan Duhaupas that was outboxing Wilder?
Yes. That caught him with
Hey,
a left
buddy.
hook coming
I
in.
just wanted to remember that.
Hey, he beat Captain Kupchak Jr. though.
He did.
Oh.
Point is, the point is, right? To the point that you made, Drew, which I think is going to happen. Bro, Fury versus Helenius is not a hot ticket in the UK, and it's not a hot ticket in Vegas. Let's stop the madness. People are not climbing over their grandmother to see Fury versus Helenius, right?
I'm not. I'm being
They're
honest.
still, and they
Right.
could potentially still be under lockdown orders because they just locked down again.
Yeah. We're talking about March, and I really hope that the situation stabilizes by March so that fans will be allowed back into shit, because it's not right away. It's 2-3 months from now, and it could be April. March could turn to April real fucking easy, right? Because they want gate revenue. Fury's not going to fight in a bubble. We know that. He didn't fight in a bubble last year. I don't think he'll fight in a bubble next year, all right? Because he wants the bread. So, that being said, the fight that I see that is likelier to happen than not is Hellenius because he's cheaper. You give that guy $1 million, he shows up. $1 million. What did he get fighting Kobnowski on that undercard?
I think he got like 30. I think he got like 30K for the first fight.
I don't want to switch. I don't want to switch the subject, but I got to give Jules some credit. He was right about the back and forth with Kambosos and Haney, and how Haney's dropping the ball, not trying to make that fight right away.
Jules, what you got there?
Hey,
man? Is
that's
that
a
new
nice
blade?
sword. I like that.
I know,
Nice
yeah.
one,
I was
bro.
like,
I
whoa.
mean, Jules, you called that.
Kratos.
You said if they're not waiting for George in Australia with a contract, someone else is going to swoop in.
Yo, listen, George,
Loma.
look, I like George. Don't get me wrong. I like Devin too. But time is of the essence. It is. Because Loma's coming for either you, George, or he's coming for Devin Haney. If Devin Haney beats George, then Devin, he's coming for you. And I don't know that y'all really want that fight. I'm not saying you don't, but I don't know that you want to. Because, yo, look, I got nothing against Devin. I'm not a Loma fanboy. I got nothing against Devin. I got nothing against George, but he beats the both of you. Facts. He
Yes,
beats
he does.
the both of you.
Yes.
I agree with
Today,
that.
yeah.
Yes, he does.
He hasn't declined enough to where I see George beating him or Devin. No, he hasn't declined enough.
He's still the better athlete.
Right.
So you think about
Haney,
that.
I'm just saying real quick. If Haney were to fight Loma, Haney is gonna wish he had the NABF title instead.
Honestly,
Come on, man.
the window of opportunity that Eddie Hearn had and still has a little bit to get that fight done. The clock is ticking because sooner or later the WBO is going to order that fight, right, between Loma and George. Once they do, you can't make the Haney fight without losing the WBO. You can still make the Haney fight if you drop the WBO. Loma's after the belts. And even after he gets the WBO, you think he's going to stop coming after you? No. He's going to want the other two belts you got. He is.
Loma wants he wants his belts back, man. That's what he wants.
I think
nothing stopping him.
I think Haney moves up and doesn't take the Loma fight.
Possibly. That's what I see.
I'm gonna segue out, Jules. Thanks for letting me on the panel, man. I gotta head back in, but thank you for setting me straight, man. I appreciate that. Seriously, thank you.
No problem. Always welcome to join. We're gonna wrap this live early because my wife's on the way back, and I want to squeeze her ass.
Okay, but look, real quick.
I feel it. Yes, sir.
I just love how Clarissa
the guy who was asking
Yo, what happened on her Instagram? Wait. Before nobody say nothing, what happened on her Instagram?
I got it on good authority from a respectable source, not Coppinger, that she was buying IG followers, and she was not making Jake Paul and Amanda Serrano comments that were in their favor.
Really?
And a call was put in, and her Instagram was taken down.
What did
Like whose Instagram was taken down?
But Drew,
who we talking about? Who we talking about?
He talking about Clarissa because in case y'all don't know, her initial, her first.
I'm not surprised.
Yo, listen, her Instagram account was taken down. I don't know why. She said I saw that she had something like 500,000 subscribers. I'm like, yo, where'd she get so many followers? She didn't used to have that many. And what could she have said that got it taken down though?
I just know Jake Paul has that Endeavor WME juice, so that's enough to make a call. You know what I mean? Ari Emanuel don't play about his A sides.
Wow, gentlemen,
and it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure, always a pleasure. And if I don't see y'all again before New Year's, happy fucking New Year's.
Happy New Year to all you guys, man.
By the power of Great School. By the power of Great School, yes, sir.
By the power of
We'll
Great
all be
School.
back, man.
There's only one Highlander.
There is. There can only be one. And lastly, appreciate you, Matthew Cochran. I appreciate that super chat. Jesse Quesada, Jay, did you catch Marcos Villegas' tweet where he's asking Anthony Durrell if he's fighting Maul next? Durrell hinted What if he's fighting him next? I did catch that, and it doesn't surprise me because Lady Chan told me that she spoke to Ronnie Shields, and Ronnie Shields was talking about how it's hard for Jamal to keep making middleweight. So no, it doesn't surprise me. Is that a good fight? Maul versus Darrell? I don't want to see that shit. Willie Lynch.
Hey, shout out to Lady Chan, man. She got COVID, man.
Shout out to Lady Chan. She's a strong woman. She's gonna make it. And
get well.
She gonna beat it. Yes, sir.
She gonna beat it. Willie Lynch says you don't come back from a brutal second round knockout to be one of the longest reigning champions in history just to get called a bum. Exactly. Vlad is an ATG. I have a lot of respect for Vladimir Klitschko's reign as a champion. Gentlemen, on that note, I'll see you next year.
All right, fellas.